Hello, hello. Welcome to the Lion's Den After Dark. I am your host, Loren Lyons, and I know it's been a while, so I'm so excited to be back here to discuss the road to the election with a recap of the presidential debate. I'm here with some beautiful ladies. Yes, here we have Sierra Lyons, Nadeska Concha. Did I pronounce that right? Okay. And Nathalie Setoute.
You did, yeah.
Okay. Woo! You're practicing all
Off to a
day.
great start.
Good.
I'm practicing all day. Okay. But I'm so glad to have these ladies with me. We're going to be here and discussing the presidential debate. We have a lot of thoughts. There was a lot going on. So you guys should know the rules. This is the Lions in After Dark. So get your glasses in your hand, okay? Because we're gonna be sipping and we're gonna be we're gonna be sipping and we're gonna be talking some tea about this debate in an unconventional way, having a good time. So I hope you're ready. If you have any questions, please drop them in the chat. We love to read them, hear what you have to say. And also, share the broadcast. You can also go back and rewatch it. So, are you guys ready?
Yeah.
Let's do this.
All right, let's get into it. So, Tuesday, we had the first presidential debate with the new candidate, VP Kamala Harris, with Donald Trump. And I was tuned in like this. We was watching the BET Awards, VMAs. I had my Twitter fingers ready. Like I was super excited to see how this discussion was going to be. So we start off with the debate, and she walks in. Like they walk in, we see them. What did you think about those first moments?
Listen, all I know was they was looking. Trump was like, "Okay, I guess I'm gonna give you a little handshake." But that was a power move for Kamala because everyone is expecting it to be like beef, but I think this was a great time for her to introduce herself to those who really don't know much about her. It was a really good power move where she was the one who initiated like the handshake. It was kind of awkward in the beginning with a little stare down going on, but she went closer to him and said, "Nice to meet you." And I think she said, "Let's have a good debate" or something like that.
I believe she said Kamala Harris. So I think that was a jab to get him to pronounce her name correctly.
All she said was Kamala Harris. Handshake.
I also was like, that was their very first time ever meeting each other. Yeah. And for him to be saying all the stuff he's been saying about her, like he knows her personally, it was kind of like, Kamala Harris, nice to meet you. You don't even know me. Like, this is our first time meeting. I said, as soon as he didn't walk up to shake her hand, I said, I already see how this is about to go. She already has the upper hand because she didn't let that intimidate her. She walked right over to his podium and was like, this is how we do things in a debate. You shake hands.
She set the intention for the conversation. I just want to talk about the logistics because, like they probably had the cue at the same time to walk onto stage, right? So she had a stride. Like she knew she was going to have to like pick up the pace to like meet him while he was still like entering the podium. So it was obviously like very strategic and very well done.
Yeah.
Yes, I completely agree. I was like, okay, I see you, power move. We get it. All right, let's go. And I'm not gonna hold you though. At first, I got a little nervous. I did because I did feel like she, how some people over prepare, and I could kind of feel that energy at first, and I was like, Kamala, I need you to breathe. I need you to calm down.
I know. Yeah, you texted us that. I
was not breathing. I could tell because she had the opening state, like she got to open and he got to close. She looked nervous.
Yes. And so I was just like, oh my God, like I need you to breathe. But before we move on, I forgot because there is, house den rules in the Lion's Den. Word of the night if you hear the word immigration, you must take a shot. Okay, so please drink responsibly.
Why did you do that during the debate, Lord?
That was the game during the debate. We would have been wasted.
Literally slumped. But yeah. So yeah, they get started with the debate, and the first topic that they bring up is the economy. How do we feel? We can start with Kamala Harris. In this section, she really talks about, this is where she talks about her plan for the middle class and how she wants to uplift the middle class and make them a priority when she wants to deal with the economy. How do we feel about this approach to dealing with the economics in this country?
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was very smart of her to, throughout the entire debate, continuously say, like, I grew up in a middle class family. I was raised by a single mom, because I think for the longest we haven't seen that relatability from candidates. This is the first time that we've had someone on the ticket that isn't like an old white man who's been in politics for decades. So I think that was smart and strategic on her end of being like, I'm not just from the outside looking in. I was also raised this way. I grew up in a middle class family. So I think that was smart. I think that she did a really good job of like honing in on her points of giving $25,000 to first time homeowners and giving $6,000 to, I believe it's first time parents. And all of the plans that she has, I think that she did a good job of actually putting it out there, because I know for a while their website didn't actually have their policies on there until a couple of days ago. So many people may not be familiar that she even had these plans for the economy. But I think she did a great job of like actually trying to relate to voters. I think that's where Trump often fails, is that there is no relatability. We know that he can't relate to the average American, and that a lot of the things that he has planned is to protect the elite and the 1%. So I think that she did a good job on that end, but I know some people may see it as disingenuous, but I didn't see it as that.
Mm.
I
Mm-hmm.
want to piggyback on what you were saying on a strategic level. The polls were saying that they don't know her, they don't know what she stands for, or like they just don't know anything about her background. So I think she was addressing that by saying, her mother's story, her second mother, even bringing in the whole sense of a small business, right? She kept repeating and reiterating that because that is relatable. A lot of people are interested in small business, and that's something that people are looking forward to getting more income. So I think like this was a great opportunity that she utilized to let people know this is who I am. People have said like she was vice president or she's vice president. We don't know nothing about her. She disappeared after she said we did it, Joe. We don't know nothing else about her, is what people were saying. So I was very impressed with her utilizing that. Keep reiterating that throughout the whole night, but definitely starting off like that.
Mm-hmm. And I do want to kind of the greater context, right? Because I'm thinking about from the DNC, like that was one of the strongest narratives that came out of the DNC. And she obviously was behind kind of orchestrating those narratives, right? The way they kind of were able to combine patriotism with fighting for the working class, right? I think that's super smart, the way like y'all have been saying, how they're bringing back the working people and the working families, and how she was proud of her story of, what was it, working at McDonald's or Wendy's, right? Like they glorify workers compared to the contrast with Donald Trump, who's literally a billionaire who only cares about himself and other billionaires.
Yeah, I agree. I think when we would hear the narrative about like the middle class is shrinking, and we've heard that in the past, I think it's really good to come in and say, no, we're going to prioritize them, right? Because you constantly heard that type of narrative. So for her to lean into that, I think it was very smart. I also think that, again, because like you were saying with corporate greed and corporations and corporate elites, we know like people do like hate that, to come in and say, hey, this is, we're not going to prioritize them, we're going to prioritize you. I think that was a really good start in saying that, we're prioritizing the American people and not being divisive, as we'll see as we go through the rest of the night. Just going ahead and setting it at the top so that as you tell your different points and platforms throughout the night, it's all connected, right, to community and to everyday people. So yeah, I think that was a pretty good, it was good, strong part with starting with that narrative. How did we feel about Donald Trump? I mean, to be honest, I think the only thing that's like I can really remember and stood out to me was that he said there was no sales tax. And that the economy, inflation is the worst in our nation's history and it's horrible, you know, which I'm like, that's not true. So
I feel like we're still in like elementary school, like an elementary school civics class. Like for him to keep pretending like they didn't inherit his economy and that he didn't inherit Obama's economy. I'm just like, did we just skip over middle, high school, college, like level civics courses? I'm like, for him to keep framing it that way as if they just took the economy from him and just absolutely shredded it to pieces. I'm like, no, you left it a mess. And we're still in a pandemic, which is obviously causing economic turmoil. But like to pretend that they just undid all of these great things that he put in place it's like our memory can't be that short as a society. Like surely we have to remember what he left them with. So that was super annoying to hear him keep saying, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I felt like that because he took his 2 minutes talking about how horrible the economy currently is, and all I kept thinking it was like, you served one term, so you literally inherited the economy prior to you. So technically, we were all relishing off of Obama's economy, and currently Biden has inherited yours. But honestly, all I could think about is the voiceover, and I was like, I'm finding it when they were like trying to look for something nice to say, like give me a moment, I'm finding it. I mean, I was looking for more. Believe it or not, I was really looking for more. I was actually excited to see if someone had prepped him on actual data, like facts, statistics. I thought maybe like the prep would have been a little bit more intentional because, you know, they know how Kamala is. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that. And I'm definitely wanting to deep dive that a lot more when it comes to preparation because that wowed me. Like,
She was
come
prepared.
on.
She was prepared.
She was prepared, but like, dude, did you not even know that this was happening? Like, it's just like simple things to me, you know, was just like, dude, please. But yeah, the biggest thing that stood out to me was just like there was no plan. And it's like positioning yourself like you were not a former president is crazy. Like you can't come from that approach of blaming you for the economy when you were the former president. Like, dude, you play a part in rolling this. Like we've talked about and we've said, like they have literally inherited your economy. And also, I mean, we have when it comes to inflation, because there's always this, you know, ooh, what is inflation? But what we're experiencing is corporate greed. That's what we're experiencing. Because I think last night we talked about it on our call that we had, where the economy is recovering, but it's because of corporate greed that you're double charging folks because you want to have double profit and you want to recover from the pandemic with the money that they lost. So I think there's also that too, and I do wish that would be brought up a lot more too, to just drive in further that you know, we have a greedy corporations like that are also hurting middle class. I think that would have also been a really strong point to make there too.
I don't think corporate greed was named, was it? It was at the DNC a lot, but during the debate, I don't think it was.
Yeah, I didn't catch it.
I didn't. But Auntie was a little, you know, nervous in this first part.
In the first part, yeah, she kind of gained her confidence and calmed down a little bit, but the facial expressions did it for me.
Ooh, she spoke with her face. She knows how to speak with her face.
Mm-hmm.
That ain't.
The optics.
Yeah.
Like, the smiles,
Debate.
the smiles every time he gave a fake statistic, like data, like it was
Yeah.
the numbers. He was
Let's
pulling them
say
out.
you're lying with her eyes. She was telling
Literally, she was like, "Oh my god." Anyways,
Like, this is ridiculous. I want to say something, but I can't. Like, or I'm gonna pick when to use it.
they can mute her mic, but they can't mute her face. Yeah.
they did not, but they didn't mute
Period.
his mic though, because
They
I
were
heard
turning
it.
it
I was
back
in my
on.
room and I
They were
heard
turning
it.
it back on, I think.
I was like,
And
what
he
is the
asked for
point
it.
of that being the rule if you're going to just turn it back on?
I was so
They-
confused. I was like, did they change the
Yeah.
rules? I don't remember them saying they were changing the rules, but
Right. I'm like, because didn't he not want to do it because he wanted mics muted? So what are we doing here? Like, I was genuinely confused.
Wait, I'm
Um,
sorry. Something that we missed in her opening statement, which was crucial for the entire debate, is she said in the very beginning, she was like, watch how much he lies tonight. She said that at the very beginning, which is
You're
why every
right.
time he lied, she didn't even have to like say it. She just did it with her face. But she was like, see, told you guys he's going to be lying all night. And she even said that a couple of times. She's like, I already told you guys at the very beginning he's going to be lying the entire night. So I was here for the face. I know, again, a lot of people are like, she won it on the basis of logic, but she lost because she can't control her face and emotions. And I'm like, really? Out of those two that can't control their emotions, I don't really think it was her, but okay.
I disagree with that.
They're just like, they're trying to find anything they can.
Yeah.
I mean, the only reason why we're really having this conversation is because she's a woman.
Yeah.
The narrative that women cannot control their emotions and they're very irrational. And although she did wonderful, she presented literal statistics. I was more amazed that we were having a discussion about whether or not she was qualified when she was the only one who actually has a career path that makes sense for her to be in this position.
Right.
And I said, wow, sexism is one heck of a thing because she's the only one who was literally qualified because of her career to do what she's doing. And she still has to convince people that although I am this person, I have done this and I have accomplished this, and I know real logical things that make sense about how to do this job, I still have to convince folks that I'm not going to just blow up the country because I might be on my period.
But I think she made that argument very strongly. Like she did make the case. Like she pointed to Trump and was like, he's the one that's very easily manipulated, very easily distracted. And she was super poised. She had a strategy. She stuck to the strategy. And like for me, what I was thinking, like the complete opposite of whoever said this analysis that she lost because of her face, it was like she was doing all of the things. It made me think of that Barbie monologue, where like she goes off about like women have to be all these things all at once.
Yeah.
I feel like we talked about, she walked in, she was strong, she shook the hand, she was dominant with her attacks, but then she also was holding back a laugh and she was expressive and she was like showing emotions on her face. I feel like she like did everything really well, all the things all at once. And that's why.
Right.
Yeah.
And we talked about this in the last recap where we were like, we wish Biden would have been more strategic and jabbing, making those jabs, knowing when to bait, but then setting your platform and speaking. We literally were asking for Biden to do that. She comes in, does that, and then people are like, oh, I just feel like, why did she, now we're critiquing. And I'm like, wait a minute. So if we losing, we can't win for losing. Like, I just think, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. You're good.
No, I was just going to say, I think that's why Trump didn't think he needed to prepare that hard for this debate because he thought he was getting a Biden part 2 debate. Because I'll give it to him. I think he did win that debate, not because he was spitting facts against Biden, but because Biden was just not there. Like, he had so many opportunities to make comebacks and he missed all of his shots. But I think that Trump thought, oh, I'm walking into the same kind of environment. Like, I don't need to prepare. My opponent is weak. And he was obviously very surprised from the very beginning to see that she was not like Biden at all. But I think that's why probably his team was like, oh, you don't need to prepare with facts and statistics. You have it already.
Mm-hmm.
I think he thought fear mongering would work more because maybe with Biden it did. But when you have a prepared candidate, and you have a very witful candidate, that cannot be your only strategy. Because it's like he's been scared. Like he has been scared now that she's in this election and she's running, because this is a different ball game. So it's like, I really think he felt like the immigration.
You took longer to mention immigration than he did.
Oh,
You're right.
He started off with immigration. We were talking about the economy. He went straight into immigration.
He went straight into immigration. I think he thought that would be a scare tactic, and the economy, and saying she's a really bad, like using that same rhetoric. I think he thought that that would be enough. And it was like, no, you're dealing with a candidate who could actually spit out what they've done and what they're going to do more effectively. And that's not enough. And I think you could tell the difference even on that alone. It was just like, to me, it just highlighted, and we're kind of jumping ahead of ourselves, but it highlighted like the real difference between these two candidates. So, we can go into it more a little bit later, but since we brought up immigration. I think he used this opportunity to go into talk about the immigrant community, and it was just like, like, it made no sense at all. He used it as a point to see they're coming in this country and they're taking jobs away, and he used it again. So you did it. Did he do it at the first debate? I'm pretty sure he did. He's been doing it at different press conferences. He did it at NABJ. You've been using the same line and it's not working. At what point are you going to shift? Like,
it does work.
It works for the group that it needs to work for.
Right.
Because they believe it.
Mm-hmm. But where is the, like, I'm in a different group. How do I have a more crafted platform?
He's not thinking about persuadables. He's not thinking about polling. He's just like, this is my strategy.
I don't even think he's thinking. It's just like a free for all every time he opens his mouth. I don't even think he knows what's going to come out of his mouth. It's just a guess.
There's enough of the people who think and subscribe to his rhetoric out there for him to win, and that's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And they know that. And that's the reason why he doesn't have to change his messaging. He does not have to expound and prepare for statistics or logic. They don't care about that. There's a group of people who believe that illegal aliens are coming into the country, taking over, and we need to do something about it because it's taking away from from America, the good old America that they know. So he doesn't have to do any of those things, right? Because there's enough people out there who believe it. So when he was like, the Haitian immigrants are eating cats and dogs, and pets, and they're stealing the pets. They're stealing the dogs. Okay. Even after the police department public officials were like, hey, y'all, it's not true. We do not have any cases of this. Okay. There's a video out of a woman in a manic state eating with a cat in front of her. And it's not a Haitian woman, it's an American citizen. No affiliation to the ethnicity at all. People were still like, no, they are out here stealing the dogs and eating the cats. And that's it. They were still saying no. Like they were still saying no. Okay. Mm-hmm. So people like the group that is adhering to his message don't care about facts. They don't care about logic or rationale or like a well-crafted argument. They do not care about that because it's not based on that. It's based on their own internal hate, is on their own prejudices. So and at the end of the day, when we were looking at to took the time to look at the like the after press conference, they were like, although we believe one candidate did better than the other, what does the American people say?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what do the American people care about? Because the two things that American people care about are like immigration and the economy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they need to know that these illegal aliens are not going to come into the country and steal of all of our resources. I unfortunately was caught in the cats and dogs argument on the people's social medias, because I'm a Haitian immigrant and I happen to have made a video that was like, oh man, like I gotta like reassure my dog I'm not gonna eat him, you know, because that's what they're saying that I'm doing out here. And people were still in my comments like, go back to your country. How dare you come in this country and think you're better than us, and you're getting health care and you're getting this and you're getting that, and there are eating dogs, you're lying. And I'm, you know, they didn't care about that type of stuff. We're fighting. They were there to do two different jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Trump was there to reinforce and hone down on his message.
Mm-hmm.
And Madam Vice President was there to reintroduce herself as someone who is capable of doing the job.
I'm curious as to the swing voters. And I didn't get a chance to look at that polling, but like even thinking about that though is okay, you have your base. They're going to go out and vote for you no matter what. But there is still a set of swing voters who you do need to convince on both sides to go and vote. And that's where it's just like, why not prepare a little? Like, let's bring something else out as well, because you still got to grab them, because you know they're also played a role in him, you know, not being reelected, because they're like, actually I'm okay, I don't want to do this anymore. So that's what I also found interesting, is just like in some of these talking points, I'm like, you still do have to get some votes. Like, you got your people, but this is a moment where your people and her people and swing voters are here watching you. So what else are you going to bring to us to at least like share something different on what you're going to do, like new or something? It was just all old and all the same.
And guess what though? Ohio is a swing state.
So, okay. So it was strategic, like strategic to pick Ohio.
Ohio is a swing state. That is why the Haitian immigrants in Ohio are the only ones eating cats and dogs and hunting the ducks in the park and grilling them.
Crazy.
So
crazy thing to even be a thing.
Like in terms of messaging and what we need to do to speak to those people that are persuadables, that are not totally under Trump's base, I do think, like, thinking about this comment with the Haitian Americans eating cats and dogs, like, understandably, we want to refute that and like fact check it and be clear, like, this is not true, but also repeating it. And like, that's kind of us taking the bait, right? I just saw like that was kind of like the main thing to explode on the internet after the debate. And we know, like, persuadables, they already know who Trump is. They already know the type of person that he is. Back since, what was it, 2018, grab him by the pussy, like, we already, like, we know his character, and that's not going to change any minds, right? We have to like really focus on like what he's going to do to our futures, like what we've been talking about with like working families and kind of the lived experience of people in their day-to-day. So I just want to emphasize, like, repeating that is not going to help us reach those persuadable voters.
And something that I wanted to point out about what was being said is just how dangerous misinformation goes from just vocalizing something to actual tangible threats. There was a bomb threat at the Springfield City Hall. There were schools that were evacuated today because of threats and Haitian students not being safe. So I want everyone to remember that there are like real life, tangible issues that result from what is said on that stage, and especially from him. We've seen it time and time again, not just from him. We've seen when at the beginning of the pandemic, when he kind of cornered Chinese Americans, and then we saw a spike in hate crime against Asian Americans. We just had the anniversary of 9/11 2 days ago. We saw Muslim people after 9/11 who had nothing to do with 9/11 being attacked and being harmed because of this dangerous rhetoric that comes from what is said from politicians. So I want people to remember, like, even as I know our community, Black people, we love to joke about everything. We love a good meme. We love to, you know, laugh to keep from crying. But like you were just saying, when you keep repeating something, even if you know it's not true, especially online, I just interviewed a media professional about this. When you keep sharing the same content, even when you know it's not true, even if you're just quoting it to refute it, the algorithm is basically programming itself to say that this is true, and it's pushing it to the forefront of everybody's timelines. And so I don't even want us to be joking that Haitian immigrants in Springfield are eating animals. They're not eating animals. It's like, how many times do we have to do this? He says something that is clearly a lie, and we have to stop what we're doing and put out all of these articles informing people that what he said isn't true. It's such a distraction and a waste of time. But more importantly, it's actually jeopardizing people's safety in real life.
Yeah.
The White House press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, she's a daughter of Haitian immigrants. And I saw her the press conference they had today. There was a journalist that just kept pushing it with her, and she finally stopped. She said, "It's not funny, and nobody wants to hear your voice anymore. Nobody wants to hear you speak because it's not funny. There's real life repercussions for taking an entire group of people and making them seem like they're a problem when they're not. Nobody is eating animals."
Right. Yeah.
Since we're talking about economy, let me just say that since there has been an influx of Haitian immigrants that have settled there, their economy is booming.
Boom.
Because there is more work now. They had jobs that no one were willing to do. Like the Haitian immigrants are doing them. And their economy has actually been booming. Like nobody's talking about that. They actually, a lot of faith leaders got together today and did a press conference because of this. And I sat in on it. And they were talking about like our economy is literally booming right now because of Haitian immigrants, because they're just working and that's why they're here. And I really want to say thank you for voicing that too. And a lot of the times, these type of harmful things have led to, unfortunately, people are afraid to leave their homes. And there's a lot of folks who are like afraid to send their kids to school and stuff like that. And this has happened multiple times. I'm trying to figure out why specifically Haitians. The Venezuelans, there was something against Venezuelans taking over. Like they were trying to paint various create smear campaigns for a lot of different groups. But why Haitians? Like that's my question is like why specifically Haitians? And because what was the talk behind it, because JD Vance is the first to have been seen publicly saying it before the debate, and he reiterated it, and Trump reiterated during the debate. I literally had just got off of the phone with someone about it, and then I'm like less than 10 minutes into the dang on debate, I'm like, oh my gosh, he said the pet thing. He said the pet thing. And everybody was calling me. It was like, oh my God, he said the pet thing. And we knew it was going to be horrible for it. But the thing is, it's not just solely in Ohio right now. Like Haitians all over the place are getting it right now. Like they're really getting attacked about immigrants getting attacked about that. So, but the fact that we even have to have this conversation about how ridiculous it is, let's know that like there's such a polarization with what really matters to people in the thought frame that multiple like people have within the United States. What matters to the American people?
Yeah, I agree. And I definitely think to at least how I'm thinking about it with answering your question, I do think because Haiti was recently in the news, right? Getting granted TPS, and then Florida is always a connection. That's his hometown. So it was. I mean, I'm sure that there's some of that reason, and then the fact that the Biden administration did grant that, and the border crisis and immigration is on top of mind for this election, that they were just picked to be targeted. And I also think that it shows how his group and his base moves, like, which is a real concern. Like they ride for this man, and I mean, we're knee deep in the election, but I mean, what happens when we get when the election's over and if he loses, I can't imagine, because now even something like this, to the point where people are in danger now because of something ridiculous that really shouldn't even be a thing was said, is actually like cause a person, like people harm in less than like 48 hours. That's crazy. And if you want to talk about people eating animals, what about roadkill? Possums from country white folks in Georgia, in Texas, even here in Florida, down the street from where I live. So I'm just like, really?
And we're talking about people from different countries going to another country and killing animals. I'm like, that sounds like the white people that go and trophy hunt in African countries. So let's maybe keep it cute if we want to talk about who's actually going to other countries and hunting people or hunting animals. I'm just like, and the thing with, you were asking Natalie, why Haitian immigrants? Let's not forget what he said just a few years ago about African and Haitian immigrants, referring to them coming from S-hole countries. He's had a vendetta against Black and non-white immigrants from the start. This is nothing new. So I am kind of confused as well why the focus kind of, I guess, when the hysteria about Venezuelan immigrants didn't pick up the way they wanted to, they were like, let's move on to the next target, I guess. But I had so many people. I went back home to Florida. I'm in New York. I went back home to Florida, and I had multiple people ask me, oh my gosh, is it out of control there with like all the Venezuelan immigrants? And I'm like, what are y'all talking about? I'm like, you need to turn off Truth Social, turn off Fox News, like, and actually live in the real world and experience the real world. It's not like an everyday problem. I'm like, I don't even know what you guys are talking about. But I guess because the hysteria from that didn't pick up the way that they maybe wanted to, they were like, oh, let's move on to Haitian immigrants. But it's like, if you just took the time to look in the mirror, you would see that all the things you're accusing Black and brown people of doing, your own people do.
Mm-hmm. And before we move on from this, I just want to name something that Natalie mentioned. Like, the most important thing that we can do to inoculate people from these messages is continue to tell the stories of how immigrants make our communities better. Like, literally, this country is built on immigrants, right? And I just said it a lot. We've been saying it a lot, by the way. I don't know.
Oh man, we got to catch up.
Catch up a few times.
And just to be a little petty, I took it upon myself to go research who was actually eating cats and dogs and whatnot. And I actually found an article of a white man who did kill and try to eat his dog.
Let's tell that story.
An actual white man in, was it in New York somewhere? I was like, oof. I had to retract my statement that it was untrue. It was true, just not Haitian immigrants who were eating it. But, anyways.
Yeah. It's crazy. So honestly, when they get even more into the economy and China gets involved, I feel like that's just kind of like an easy, China type of thing with him. And then that's where he also chose the moment to bring up Kamala Harris and her dad, and that he was a Marxist and he was a teacher, and make that personal jab to try to get her shaken up. And her face was like, and I was just like, don't do it, auntie, don't do it. And we'll talk about another moment that I think spoke to all of us that she did and we could resonate with holding her tongue, that she did a really good with. Then we get into abortion. And the journalist, which shout out to the ABC journalists, like, that's what you do. You fact check, you do your job, you ask the tough questions. Shout out to them. We didn't see that with the last debate. I felt like they did really good, as they should. And so the journalist asked why Trump keeps changing his position on abortion, which we have seen, because now he's saying, oh, we can have exceptions. He also is now really distancing himself from Project 2025, because we're seeing that across lines, people are not vibing with Project 2025. But his advisors are known to be part of the creation of Project 2025. So he distanced himself. He's trying to distance himself from that. But and then this is where he made the line that, you know, people are getting abortions at 6 months, 7 months, 9 months. They're just getting like just getting them. And it was like, huh? Like, and honestly, interesting enough, because I go back and I talk to my community, and especially like even faith community, and even they were like, so we just killing babies? Like, huh? Like, like what? Like, even they could see that that's not, no. Like, that don't even sound right. That don't even sound good. So what do we think? What did you guys think about this part? Because I do have more thoughts, but I want to hear what y'all have to say.
I will say it's very noticeable how uncomfortable Trump is talking about abortion. I feel like we've been talking when he's talking about immigration, he's talking about the border, like that's basically the only thing he like feels really sure about. With abortion, like you were saying, like he kind of goes back and forth between his stances. Like he's trying to distance himself, but like he doesn't want to upset his pro-life constituents. And I think this is the portion where he started going off about student loans, and it's like, what are you even talking about? Like per usual, just not answering the question. And I did read something super interesting about this portion of the debate in particular. You know how they do like the dial tests with voters, like, and how they react to certain segments? There was a 40-point difference with undecided voters towards Kamala in the abortion segment, which is the largest difference they've ever seen in any debate with any topic. So just wanted to drop that because that is impressive.
Wow. I was shook at the fact that I don't know why he always takes it upon himself to say that he is like the expert or he's the biggest advocate for whatever it is they're talking about. Because when they started talking about IVF, it was like, I am like a top advocate for fertilization. I'm like, I don't even think he knows what IVF stands for. So he just kept saying fertilization. And I'm like, in vitro fertilization. I'm like, okay, whatever. But I think that it was just weird. You mentioned something, Loren, about him kind of like flip-flopping, and he said that he believes in exceptions in the case of like rape, incest, and to protect the life of the mother. And he said, you know, that's what Ronald Reagan believes. I believe it too. I'm not sure why Republicans always look to Ronald Reagan as like this knight in shining armor. I think they might have a shrine of him like in their closets or something. But I guess because he was saying, well, Ronald Reagan was flexible in those ways, I am too. But I'm glad that Lindsay Davis and David Muir, like you said, were fact checking in real time, because there is no state that allows abortions in the 9th month of pregnancy or after giving birth. That would be execution. But I'm just glad that they were able to say it out loud in real time. But I think it is so crazy that the Southern Baptist Convention, when they had their convention, I can't remember what month that was, a couple months ago, but they are some of the most conservative white Christians. And for them to come out and say that they are now against IVF, and you had a lot of people that are Southern Baptists not okay with that, I'm like, this is what we mean by overturning Roe v. Wade wasn't just about abortion. It was about women's health and access and different options to becoming pregnant. This is what we meant. This is what we meant where we said it's a threat, because up until now, I have not heard even conservatives say that they had an issue with IVF. Now, all of a sudden, you have Project 2025 saying that they're going to be banning IVF and birth control. And it's like, how did we get here? I have not heard people say this until now. But for Trump to say that he has nothing to do with it when 140 of his former administrators were a part of crafting Project 2025 is like a half truth. But I'm just confused how we got so far as to like, now we don't want any form of birth control. We don't want IVF. I'm like, how did we get here?
Because if IVF was for men, we wouldn't be here. Like, simple. Like, it's because it doesn't affect them.
And I think with IVF, that's where we have the opportunity to directly connect it to men, right? Like men that want to start a family, like you're not going to be able to pass on your sperm or whatever, you know? Like,
But that was the whole point with abortions too, for the men who are cheating on their wives and getting these side chicks pregnant. Like, what are you going to do now?
I'm sorry. I'm still laughing at Trump being the fertilization. What do you call fertilization expert? Is that what he called himself?
He is a fertilization expert. He's been fertilizing.
Did you see that same day? There's David Grohl from that band. You know what I'm talking about? There's the lead singer of a band. That same day he came out cheating on his wife and having a kid outside of marriage. So it was like fertilization expert.
Yes, all of them are fertilization experts. You know, so that's the problem.
Yeah.
But honestly, I would have to say that like they were not seeing eye to eye with that one, because that was one of those things that JD Vance, they referred to what he said, and then at that moment we saw there was a disconnect between him and his running mate. He's
never liked him.
Yeah, he was like, I ain't talked to him about that. I don't know why.
I'm so confused.
Okay,
I'm like, do they even talk to each other?
Yeah, like how did you not get on the same page? Like that's
right.
crazy.
How are y'all not on the same page? And then JD Vance doubled down on the after. Like they doubled down when they were doing the post debate interviews, and he was like, I agree with what he said, because you all are trying to have a hypothetical situation that will never happen. We're not wasting time on something that will never happen. We're trying to talk about things that are going to happen, you know? So he gave a very politically correct response to it. But
right, to be fair, that's true. Like it's very unlikely
to happen. Yeah. And then it was just like, but though, what does the American people see? There's division in that party right now. Like there's division there. And I think that's giving us some good insight as to really like some of the strategies, some of the things that matter to the American people are really polarizing. Like, you know, like there's some type of, they are fearful. You know, that little switcheroo the Democrat Party did with their candidates really took them off their game. It really took them off, because their whole campaign has to change now, because it's a whole different person that they're running against. So I thought that was interesting.
And his strategy has not changed before and after, right? It's so like obviously not. And I want to say one little thing that just really impressed me with Kamala and how careful she is with her words. When she talks about codifying Roe v. Wade, she always says, if and when the bill lands on my desk, I will sign it, because she knows like with the filibuster and all the shit going on in the Senate, like it's very so I think it's just very smart of her to be very specific with her words there. Props to her.
Yeah. In regards to his messaging, I was just really surprised, because when it comes to abortion, and you've heard in the past with conservatives who often, when talking about abortion, lean into stories, lean into that emotional side, or date, like something. I was like, Trump. And I'm not saying, you know, but I'm just like, strategically, I'm like, oh my God. Because I was just like, at least lean into what we know, like, or lean into something than just being like, there's 52 years of this country has been torn apart for 52 years. I was just like, wow. And, you know, and I just found that very interesting, because it's kind of like other conservatives do, they lean into that lens. They do, because they know that there are some faith communities that are still very torn about it, or don't understand that this is a women's right issue. And the fact that he didn't even think, oh, maybe I should just lean into this because it has worked in the past, was crazy to me. And I won't say too much because I'm not going to give away anything, but I was just like, wow, okay. Like, I was like, yeah, you're not prepared, dude. Like, this is not it. Because I feel like if you had to, with any any issue, this could have been one that you could have at least got something right, because it is an important issue, and it, you know, like you can move some way or be like, oh, okay, yeah, but it was like nothing. You just came up with more, like killing babies at 9 months was the best you could come up with. Was crazy to me.
Executing them.
Yeah.
I would say someone was like, you know, there has been a lot of babies dying after 9 months. School shootings.
I was very disappointed that they said nothing about school shootings when we just had one. They didn't say a single thing.
That's a great point. Gun violence did not come up.
Gun
at all.
violence did not come up until he
And-
said like they were gonna go door to door and take everybody's guns, and Auntie
she
was
had a
like,
Glock.
hold on, I'm packing, and so is my running mate. We all
Right.
And that was not a flex to me either. I'm like, okay, and still nothing has been said about children being shot at schools.
But
Like,
I would say the moderators should have brought it up.
Yeah.
I would say that's something like I'm shocked gun violence did not come up, and I think even going back to her with fracking, she was trying to undo what a lot of their base cares about. They care about their guns. They care about a lot of things. So I think that was her way of like undoing, the image that she doesn't like guns because they care about guns. But
Yeah.
Trump was presenting something that actually happens. They are killing babies after 9 months in those school shootings, and that needs to be taken care of.
Nadeska, were you gonna say something?
I feel like I can't. I gotta leave it at that. We gotta, yeah.
So yeah, that part was insane to me. But just from a like strategic I'm like, wow, okay. But anyway, I'm I think that she did a good job in really like making it clear the implications and impact of Roe v. Wade being taken away. Like, I think she did a really good job of centering that and centering women in that moment with her response to that. And that's another thing overall that I did like about her is she did take moments to address the American people. And she said, I did hear her say freedom to choose, So those are things that I really did like about her response is you did use that moment to speak directly to us, not to just argue with him. She was very intentional about those moments as well. And that was one of those moments that I really appreciated about that. Yeah. So I think we ended up back on immigration. Because they asked about what they would do with border crimes, and so she said that she actually had a bill. I did not get the opportunity to check out the bill, but she had a bill that she was working to sign in place that would give them more support at the border, and he shot it down. And she straight up asked him, well, why did you shut it down? Like, what was the problem with it? Like his the people, Republicans and stuff, shut it down. And I think that's where he jumped to. Was that where he jumped to? No. This is where he jumps to, not the eating dogs and cats. I think, was this where it was student loans, like promised you something and you didn't get it? It's the same with student loans. He jumped into a distraction of some sort at that point because he didn't have an answer. Even when the journalists were like, but why did you? And then that's where she said, let me welcome you into a Trump rally where people are leaving early. And that's where she set that motion to set him off, and he did not recover after that. Like, people show up leaving they leave early, and he lost it. That was it. That was a wrap for Trump. Was no longer there. He
is so easy to trap. I'm like, my 7-year-old niece could like get into an argument with him and trap him. Like, he fell for every single trap that she laid down for him easily. Yeah. She made fun of his crowd sizes, but she was still probably bitter from Obama's joke about his crowd sizes. Yep. She talked about how he just talks about fictional characters, Hannibal Lecter at his rallies. She talked about how he is has filed for bankruptcy 6 times. I'm like, he literally just fell for every single thing that she said. It was crazy.
Yep. He doesn't know how to stay in control. And I was remembering in the last podcast, he said something, Lauren, about Trump being the personality hire. I'm just laughing thinking about that because, like, yeah, they're all fun and games. And when shit gets serious, like, they literally have no idea what to do. And that is exactly
literally. That's when you would have to give it to the qualified person, because they're qualified and have experience and know how to do the job.
And there you have it. I mean, hey, Yeah. So he did not come back from that. That's when he, of course, made that statement about immigrants. And then just up to that point, he just kept going in with making blanket statements with no facts. And that was really annoying. And I think it was just more prevalent just because you had someone at least giving some type of facts. And there was fact checking. Yeah.
Was this the one where, because at one point they asked Kamala directly the question, like, why did you wait until like fall 2023 to try to pass an immigration bill? Was that this question? Because I will say that's the one that she didn't really answer.
Mm-hmm.
She did not. I have to call her out for not answering that question.
Mm-hmm. I was waiting to say that part. So for me, immigration has been an area that I have been holding her very accountable for, which she does not have a strong stance or immigration policy at all. I think she was alluding, forgive me for even saying this, she was pandering and really trying to allude to folks saying what she thinks that people want to hear, but no solid, genuine approach to immigration. So that's an area I was like, I could care less for what she has said already about it. So I'm very eager to see how she strengthens her stance on that or have some clear policy for that. Because I think at that point she was like, man, the American people care about immigration. Let me just try to like say something or do something with it. So that's something I'm looking forward to. I don't think we're getting a second debate. I just have to see what her me being very hopeful what her administration has to say or do about immigration.
I do not think they're going to be talking about it at all. That's where my bet is. Like, they've had their opportunity. And I think from the very beginning, like while she was VP, it was almost like a whole comms fiasco, right? Like the communications coming out of the White House was very misleading. And that's what led to all those headlines of like, she was supposed to be controlling the border, but she failed. It's like, that was never really her job to begin with. Like,
yeah, she was the border czar. They call her the border czar or something.
Yeah, like that was never her job. She was like more like doing political like relations with like countries in Latin America,
Yeah, she doesn't have any federal power as vice president. That's not her job.
They never communicated it well. And the fact that she's not speaking to it to like try to counter that, it's just like, they're not going to talk about it. So.
Right, exactly. And then that's interesting. And we will ask that later. Why, like, how did you feel about her asking for a second debate? But, cause I've heard some mixed reviews on that. I won't get into much of fracking, but we'll touch on it when we talk about climate change. Insurrection came up.
Those fine people. Those fine people that we are out here criminalizing.
Honestly, I was actually happy that this is the first time I've ever heard, Biden definitely didn't do it last debate. This is the first time I've heard someone make the connection point between the insurrection, Charlottesville, Proud Boys. Like, yes, us like everyday American people have made that connection, but I haven't heard any of his opponents be like, the insurrection was not an isolated event. There was Charlottesville. There were Proud Boy rallies. There were all of these different white supremacists that have felt comfortable since Trump has come into the forefront of politics in 2015 that have had rallies, uncovered, unmasked rallies, showing their faces because they're emboldened now more than ever. But I'm glad that she finally made that connection of it wasn't just about the insurrection. There was Charlottesville. There was Proud Boys. Like, people need to understand that these are not isolated incidents. And when he's using language like, trust me, you won't ever have to vote again if you get me into office, or saying bloodbath, even if you are referring to the economy, using that kind of terminology with your fan base is very dangerous. Very dangerous.
And I like how they held him accountable for taking so long to address his people. And they were like, why did you take so long to tell them to go home and stand down? Like, and he did not ever state that what they did was wrong. He never did.
He won't. He has no regrets.
So that's why I'm perplexed why patriotism is what their whole base is about. I'm perplexed at this point. You were attacking our capital, which is what you accuse immigrants of doing all the time, like infiltrating and trying to attack America. You literally did it, because I was like, look at the terrorists at the Capitol. I have never in the history of America since it's been founded, or as of recent, has any other group have done something like that and got away with it.
It's insane.
Yeah, and I feel like, again, just it was a missed opportunity. Like, I mean, not for his people, right? But like, you could have at least did a moment where you show a presidential side, because at the end of the day, it's not okay to storm the Capitol. And like, no one should be able to do that. And it's just like the fact that it was just like nothing. I was like, yeah, this is insane. Like, which I don't expect anything more, but it was just still like, okay, like if I'm just thinking about candidates and in, moments that you want to call people in, that was that moment to speak to the American people. And you still was just
yeah,
like,
but the folks,
nah. So, yeah, that was horrible. I did, like you said, I did like Kamala Harris's response to this. It was very straightforward. Because it rattled him, he again brings up climate change, goes back to border control. And this is where I think, was one of the best lines of the night, where she said, Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. And he was
good. So good. He knew it was good. He knew it.
It called out how he was xenophobic and he's a disgrace.
He's like, other leaders are so embarrassed by you. Like, you are a disgrace to this country. So I was really impressed with that, because then everybody doesn't say like, everybody loves me. I'm best friends with everybody, including the same folks that he's trying to separate himself with now. Nonetheless.
Yeah, I think that was where she made a really strong argument. Like, that's why she was able to weave in like the jab, but then getting to like, what will the future look like with Donald Trump, right? Like, you should not trust this man with any power. Like, how is he going to act? Like she said, right? Like, world leaders do not take you seriously. Like, you're a joke. And like, how does that translate to the safety of the American people?
Which is strategic, because a lot of people have argued that as a woman, like, she would not be able to protect the country. She would not be able to negotiate and make the tough decisions. So I think this was strategic on her point to really kind of like, shed light on that weakness of his. And then, of course, we got to the point where like, she was horrible at negotiation. And because she negotiated so horribly, we ended up here. And it was...
Is this where
that didn't happen? I was like, that did not happen.
Is this where she said that Putin would eat him for lunch? I thought that was great as well.
Oh, I missed that.
I think she was like, they were like pen pals or something, like a love letter.
No, she said something that like, Putin would eat you for lunch. Like, you're like a little.
Yeah. Okay, I see that part. But she's like love letters to who did she say a love letter to?
Oh, yeah, I remember that. I feel like I thought it was Putin, but yeah, that gagged him, because then he went to his talking points of Biden, and you started talking Biden, and she was like, I'm Kamala.
Right. She said, you're not running against Biden, you're running against me. I said,
I'm running for president.
But I have to say, I know we'll probably get there, but I don't think she really differentiated herself from Biden in the debate. Like, that was one of my only cons, but we can circle back to that.
Yeah. But yeah, he was that got him. That to me was the kind of housewife, like, I'm waiting for my moment. We're sitting at the table. Let me clock you real quick. Like, I loved it. I was like, ooh. So that was a highlight for me. But then the conversation moves on to Palestine. Yay. And yeah, I feel like her answer was very safe. Ceasefire. She said that there should be security for Israel, but also Palestine. Give Israel their support and rebuild Gaza. I think another important issue again that like American people, especially like young Gen Z and millennials, want to hear real policy on. Yeah, what did you guys think about this?
Like you said, it was safe. She said she was going to do a two-state approach. I think she started off strong by like bringing light to Hamas and not saying like this is a war between two countries, but it was like this is a war between terrorists, a terrorist institution. But I think it was leaving room for more. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I think we've been really people have been. I think this has been one of those issues that people have always been wanting to play safe because of who and what Israel is, but also like this is genocide. This is what's happening. This is literally genocide. And we have to. It's difficult. It's a difficult thing to do. International relations is quite difficult, and I think it was an opportunity for either of them to really stand strong on something, like take a clear cut position on the situation. Um, and I don't think either of them did that. You know,
Mm-hmm.
she was playing it safe, but I think we're still going to really need to know what are we going to do because this can't continue. You know, too many
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, I think it goes back to what you were saying, Nadeska. Like this was a moment where it could have made a clear distinction between her and Biden. And I think she just kind of constantly misses it. Yeah.
I was extremely dissatisfied, and I've continued to be dissatisfied with her and the Biden administration and as a whole of how they have tried to play both sides. If you actually listen to what she's saying, it doesn't add up. 2 + 2 is not equaling
It's
4.
not saying anything.
She's saying that on one hand, Israel has the right to defend itself and they should continue to defend themselves, and then saying that Palestinian people deserve to be free. But how are they going to be free if Israel is continuing to murder them every single day? And you're not telling the full story. How is Israel able to continue what they're doing?
Because you're funding them.
You're giving them billions of dollars. So if you're not going to tell the full story, then just keep it, in my opinion, because that does nothing for us. That does nothing for Palestinians who are dying. You saying, well, on October 7th, that's not even telling the full story. This did not all start on October 7th. And I think it's irresponsible as a politician, and it's irresponsible as media professionals for us to pretend like, oh yeah, what she's saying is fine. It gives a solution. That didn't answer anything. And it continues to not answer anything. And this is kind of my qualm that I have with, I'll just speak for my own community of Black men and women who are extremely supportive of her, and they don't want anyone to critique her whatsoever. You can support her all you want to. I don't care. But the issue that I take is when people think that support of her means that there can be no critique of her. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that we should just all blindly go into the ballot box in November and just say, oh, okay, well, whatever policies she passes, we don't care. No, you're supposed to put pressure on your politicians to do the things that you want them to do. By just saying, oh, like, you guys are just attacking her because she's a Black woman. Like, don't weaponize her identity so that you can continue to support a genocide. Because as a Black woman myself, I really hate that. I really hate that you're trying to use her identity to protect her and shield her from critique that she rightfully deserves. So I was not impressed at all. And I will continue to be unimpressed until someone actually lays out actual plans of how they're going to protect Palestinians.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, again, that goes back to where people have to understand that, like, politicians are not your saviors. You elect the politician that can move the agenda that your community has or that you have. So who is more likely to do that? And like, we are the ones that, like, we're the heroes. Like, we're the ones that are gonna go out and protect our communities. They're here to simply help support what we want to happen. And so that means that, like, politicians, they don't always have it right. And we know that. And so we shouldn't be approaching it anyway in that way, because we're going to always be disappointed. And it's like, we're the ones that have the power. And so that's how we need to be positioning ourselves when we're talking about candidates. So yeah, I completely agree.
Real quick, the example I always think of is like LBJ was not any less racist than the last president. I think that's all. That's like, for me, like that explains they work for us. The people control what happens in the White House. So that's not about that.
My light died. Yeah. Yes. Sorry. My light kept going because it died. But yeah, so then we just get a bunch of back and forth from Trump. And then we talk about Ukraine, and he's like, the war would have never happened if I was there. It would have never happened. And then, of course, like I think what he was trying to do was connect her with Biden, because these were weak points for Biden. And then this is where this man is a comedian, because he did say we have a president that doesn't even know he's alive. I was like, oh my God.
Meanwhile, Biden's doing the cha-cha slide in New York at his granddaughter's birthday party. It's like, he's so unbothered. And I'm like, sir, you're only 3 years younger than him. If he's not alive, that means your time is quickly approaching as well.
Hello. Like, oh my God. Like, is he a zombie? I'm so confused. That was funny. I'm sorry, that was funny. And that's when she goes, I'm not Biden. Like, let's not do that. And so she tried to make a distinct difference.
She ate that.
She did.
She did. She did.
She did. So then the question comes up, which was interesting to see, because we know that at NABJ, a National Association of Black Journalists, that's where he took it upon himself to question Kamala Harris's identity. And so now, with being re-asked that question, you mentioned it, the journalist re-asked him, like, do you still feel that same way? What made you say that? And he was just, I don't know. I mean,
I don't care.
I thought that she was, but I guess she's not, and it was just like, what, dude? But he was like, but either one's okay. I don't care.
It's a non. I mean, okay. I was peeved when I found out that everyone was upset that she identified as West Indian. I was like, do you guys know what being West Indian mean? I'm West Indian. Like, do y'all know what that means? It's like we're still suffering from Columbus calling these people Indians till this day.
That's what I was about to say.
Suffering from that illness. But that's the whole thing, that they were like, oh, she's saying she was just West Indian. She's just not Black. Do y'all know what it means to be West Indian? Her family's Jamaican, located in the West Indies.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So the whole thing, I found out finally why they were like, she's not Black. She had no proximity to Blackness. The fact that the whole West Indies, okay, that doesn't exist. Like, the West Indies don't exist. Okay.
I'm like, okay, maybe we just need to continue to use the phrase Caribbean. Because again, you just said they're all caught up because Columbus thought he landed in India, and now we refer to that region as the West Indies. But I'm like, yeah, her being like, we need to like give, how we give all the kids Chromebooks in schools now? We need to give all the politicians just a nice world map, apparently. And like a nice basic lesson on the difference between race, ethnicity, and nationality.
That's asking a lot. I don't know.
I guess so.
Is this more expensive? Is this part of the concept of the plan that he has? Will it fall under that? Because I was kind of impressed, because I think they were listening to kind of what feedback was. It's like, that wasn't a strong thing. Attacking the fact that, oh my God, they were trying to say that like she wasn't even qualified to run for president, because technically, she's not, Black people are not citizens of America.
I will say, though, there's been less identity tax this presidential
than I anticipated.
Like,
yeah, because Obama was not catching a break.
No. And of course, like, I'm just gonna say this shit, but like also her being a woman, like she's not getting the same shit that Hillary Clinton got when she ran.
Yeah.
But you know, I think that is because a lot of Hillary's platform was like first female president, first female president. You haven't heard Kamala Harris, like you haven't heard her campaign market her that way at all. You haven't heard them say anything about her, the possibility of her being the first Asian or Black female president. You haven't heard them say that. I think because they're not focused on that. I feel like maybe their opponents aren't either. But I still think there's been a lot of attacks, not maybe from politicians, but just like as I scroll through Twitter and see just the ignorance of people talking about how she's not qualified because she's a woman, because she's Black, because she's Asian. I've seen that a lot on my timelines, at least. And I don't know how to fix my Twitter algorithm ever since Elon messed it up. So maybe I'm just like on the wrong side of Twitter now, but I've seen it a lot, but just not from like politicians necessarily.
Yeah, I've been seeing the same thing from Black folks who are saying like, I'm not voting for her because she's Black. She never said she was Black before. Wow. All of a sudden she's pandering to Black people. I'm like,
my algorithm is so different.
Mind you, this was a Stitch video. I got scared too when my algorithm posted. I did not see the Stitch coming. I was on TikTok. Like Stitch, I was like, oh, Stitch coming. Okay. I'm on the right side of TikTok still because I was confused for a second. But yeah, like nonetheless, it's the same reason people are saying they are not going to vote for her from one side. It's the same reason they're like, well, she never said she was Black. I don't think, but even though she did not say she was Black in your eyes, you know, what does that really mean for you? What does that mean for you?
Something that Sarah said earlier, I think is so important. Like respecting her as a Black woman means like critiquing her for, you know, like seeing her as a whole human being and not just like any politics. So
yeah, I think it's kind of feeding off of them with the whole sexism, like, oh, spare her because she's a woman. No, she's still a politician. She knew what she signed up for. Politicians work for the public. We have to hold them accountable. When immigration comes on the table, I am really very harsh on and hard on her with that one because I'm like, you're not giving me a strong response with immigration right now. You know, but you can support someone and still hold them accountable. Actually, that's what supporting means. That's literally what supporting means.
Right.
Hey, I support you, but we kind of need to keep you here because this is the end goal. And that's really, we have to get into the habit of that. I feel like because we are a bipartisan nation and we are so polarized with these political parties, we have groupthink. We cannot have two things simultaneously exist. It's either you support or you don't support, and you support blindly or you don't support blindly. That is not the American politics that that needs to happen. George Washington clocked it. He said political parties was going to be the demise of America. He said it in the beginning. That's the only thing I could be like, you know, like we could really learn a lesson or two from that man. But nonetheless, we have to reframe what it means to be so like we have to reframe what it means to support a political candidate, holding them accountable. It's like once they're in office, it's like that's the culture. Once they're in office, they could do whatever they want. So there is a little of like civic engagement that needs to happen, I think, as a whole for us, even when we're looking at these candidates and just debate. Because at the end of the day, they're going to vote for who they want to vote because it aligns with their morals. You know, so
yeah, I think she did a really good job of. This is one of my other favorite moments that she did, where she said, "You're attempting to use race to divide the American people." And then she pointed out that you were a landlord, and how he was being discriminated against Black tenants. And then she brought up the Central Park 5 ad. I thought that was beautifully, again, another way to also kind of hit at the Black men or some Black Americans leaning Trump too. I feel like that was really good in like putting it right there, because now you want to talk about my identity. Well, let me talk about how you've been coming, you know, for Black men and for Black people and how you've been historically. So I felt like even that was that was very strategic, and I did like that. And I thought she nailed that. And again, he spiraled again. I built the economy. Others will agree with me. Goes back to inflation and the economy. I was like, dude.
Terrorist.
Okay.
Terrorist.
Yeah. Yeah. And then that's when he started attacking Obama, which is like, you really think that's gonna work? Like, because it's like this is all, but it's always so interesting, and I'll keep it quick. That like I almost feel like he's also kind of scared of Obama, because even with Obama and Michelle really clearing him at the DNC, it was a very minor response back, like compared to how he has reeled in other people. And I just always find it interesting. And even with him saying like, oh, he was like, yeah, I don't, he doesn't like the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare. But then he was like, I'm glad we saved it. And I was like, wait,
Yeah.
what?
It was like, but do you have a plan for it though? Concept of a plan.
And that's where concept of a plan came up.
That's where that came
That's
in.
cheaper. It's cheaper.
But he knows not to do too much on Obama, because he knows there's an entire demographic of Black grandmas somewhere with a picture of Obama right next to white Jesus in their living rooms. Like, he's not really the one to like come against. Because when he did the crowd size joke, I was waiting for him to put something on Truth Social. I'm like, I wouldn't be surprised if he's saying the N-word behind closed doors right now to that joke. But he didn't really have a very large response to that, which was shocking. I think if Kamala would have said it, I feel like the response might have been different. But
I think he's literally terrified of Michelle Obama, and that brings me so much joy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, because he only functions when people fear him. So, like, when people attack him like that, it's very powerful.
He falls back. He falls back.
I want to mention the fact that he told her that, oh, you were digging for old information. That was so old. Like, you confirmed what she said though. So you confirmed being a like prejudiced, like racist. Your only argument was that it happened so long ago, and they were the ones who confessed to the crime. So if they confess to the crime, of course, I'm going to agree with it. And then they didn't confess to the crime. I was like, so that meant go get a whole like billboard and like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. That was very interesting. That's always interesting to me. And then of course they just ended with climate change. She said that's where she spoke about what she's done as VP, 80 million jobs. Trump lost factory jobs. She wants to do better with American made products. You know, heard it all before. So yeah. So with that being said, oh, and then closing statement, which I felt like was a very also another example of where you saw two distinct candidates. You had Kamala, who spoke to the American people, and him going back again, reiterating those talking points about immigration, inflation, and didn't address the American people, just went back into attacking. So, you know, with that, how do you think Kamala Harris did? If you had to rate her 1 through 5, because here at the after, you know, Lions Den After Dark, we do ratings. 1 through 5, what would you give Kamala Harris?
On performance, I'm going to give her 4.5. On actual like policy, I'll give her a 3.
That's what I'm aiming for. Yeah, exactly. Policy, 3.5, 3. Performance, strong, 4. Started off a little, you know, fearful, shaky, but she picked up steam when she realized he was grossly underprepared.
Yes. Because I do think debate-wise, if we're grading her on like how she debated, I would arguably actually give her a 5.
5.
She had a debate strategy. She executed the strategy. She obviously
the trap.
You know what I mean? So like in that sense, 5. But it depends on what we're valuing here.
Yeah, I agree with y'all. I wouldn't change. Like, yeah, that's exactly would be my ratings. Trump performance.
Wow.
It was like the room from Showtime at the Apollo. Yeah, no. I mean, a 1 out of 5, he showed up.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
He had a pulse and he was on stage. So
yeah, he did say he didn't want to do a debate, but then he showed up. So I got to give him his pointers for actually agreeing to debate and showing up.
Yeah, he wasn't even as funny. Like, it was only like, what, 2 jokes?
He wasn't even entertaining.
Right. He had no strategy other than throwing a tantrum, so I'm going to give him a 1 just for throwing up with a pulse. As far as his policies, I'm going to also give him a 1 because I feel like even if I don't agree with his policies, I feel like I didn't even really hear much of his policies. Maybe I'll give him a 2 because I think he was quite thorough talking about his policy for abortion, and he was, well, I guess that's about it. So maybe a 1.5.
I would say a 1.5. He had me laughing when he was like, he was talking to the Taliban and he sent them a picture of
with the Taliban.
of my home. What was his name? Raul? What was his name?
Yeah.
He was like,
no, you're right.
Who I have a picture of. I thought that was very entertaining.
I did chuckle a few times.
I chuckle a little bit because I was like, why Abdul?
But not as much as usual, you know? Because I'd be dying.
Kind of funny. Abdul. It was kind of funny.
Yeah.
Even in the optics, like what he did, like during the Biden debate, where it's saying like just from like the visuals, how like Biden's head was down and Trump was more dominant. But this time, like Kamala was the one, like she knew how to work those side to sides. Like she knew how it was going to look on people's television screens and looking over and like putting her hand on her chin and speaking with her face. And Trump was like, his head was down a lot of the times. Like you saw him, like you said, he was spiraling. Like he was kind of sad at the end of the debate. Like just optics wise, also is 0.
His age was showing.
Oh, well, it's been showing.
His age was definitely showing at this debate. Yeah, his age was showing with his behavior. Just
his chin,
the little hair that was hanging.
Oh, Lord Jesus.
Yeah, so I think his age was, you know how they were like, oh, Biden's too old, but I think here his age was showing a lot. That contrast was interesting.
Yeah. So, back to should there have been a second debate? How did y'all feel about the Harris campaign immediately asking for a second debate? I get why, but like some people felt like it was a sign that she lost.
No, every other presidential election we've seen multiple debates because it's been what? How many weeks has it been? 7 weeks since she's actually been the candidate or the nominee. They only have gotten to have one debate. Him going on Truth Social and all caps saying there won't be a third debate. That is what looks like a loser. Not her campaign asking for one more. I was like, really? How does that make her look like a loser? That doesn't make any sense.
Because she wasn't asking for a redo. She was asking for another opportunity for the American people to see who's truly qualified. They thought she was asking for a redo. 1 and 10. That's never been the case for a debate.
Ever.
A presidential race. A 1 and done is never it.
Yeah. He saw those pollings. It was like, I'm good. Because at first he was like, I mean, yeah, we'll see. And now he's like, nah.
No, absolutely not. And they were now painting the narrative like the moderators. It was a team of 3. It was a 3 versus 1. Like that did not happen. Because they was checking her. Mm-hmm. They were asking actual things that she had to actually be accountable and voice. And she, anyways, they were saying that's the reason that he lost. Not the fact that he didn't say any type of he didn't go into his policies or actually address what was being asked of him. But no, I would have loved to see another debate. I'm not gonna hold you. I was ready for Super Bowl night 2 because that was my Super Bowl right there.
I need one with an audience, man.
Yeah, definitely, man. I missed my opportunity to throw a watch party. I kind of want a second one.
Right. I would definitely like them to do another one for sure. Because I think it would also be good for her to again show more of her platform because people do want to see that more, especially with her being so new. Social media is one of the best parts of this. because, people are hilarious. So I just wanted to show a few of my favorite tweets that I was seeing on my timeline where it was like, administration, do you have a lesson plan? Teachers, I have a concept.
So good.
And I literally read it in her voice. And
I did too. As a former teacher, this is real because they were like, what's your lesson plan for today, Miss Setoute? Listen, the kids are here. This is what I have in my mind. That's all you need to know.
Yes. This one as well, I was like, oh my God, y'all are nuts. And again, like we should share it. But they were like, they asked him about killing a bill, and he said they down there eating Snoopy.
Oh my God.
I was like, you know what? And then so this one is a little bit funny for me, for my sorority members. I found this.
Oh my gosh, the sorority party.
Hilarious.
Me throw my pinky up. I saw that when I was here. He accused her of going to a sorority party. That one was another opportunity that was hilarious too. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I was like, listen, like Twitter, people are hilarious. I do enjoy it. I do. They're funny. The reactions were hilarious. So those were a few, but there's been so many. Oh, and I think, we didn't even say that one. The one where he called transgender aliens. I was wild to me. I was like, what? Yeah. So it was a lot of crazy moments and a lot of memes are now going around and everything. But that was the debate, guys. And we'll see what happens. I think everybody needs to make sure you register to vote and go vote, please. And we'll see what happens next. I think there'll be a couple of shows that come or programs that come out with Kamala Harris. She'll be doing sit downs. I think one with Oprah as well. And then there is going to be one with NABJ coming next week. So definitely tune into those to just hear more from her and what she has to say. And then I'm sure Trump is on Truth Social as well. So any announcements? Do you guys have anything coming up you guys want to share coming out? Sierra?
I have a couple pieces coming soon related to the election, related to disinformation online. That's all I will say, but I've been waiting a year to write this piece, so stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Love it.
Love it.
I will name that my organization just came out with a website that I worked very hard on. Please visit floridaforall.vote/project2025. We did a lot of in-depth research doing the direct connection between bills that have gone through the Florida legislative session and finding that direct link to Project 2025, making the case that Project 2025 already exists here in Florida, and Floridians have the power to stop it at the ballot box this November. If you visit the website, you will find 8 legislators that we did the research to directly connect them to the bills, and they also happen to be up for re-election this November. So let's show up.
Awesome. You have anything coming up?
Just clocking into my Black job, trying to find systems, making sure that Haitian immigrants are not being targeted, or immigrants, period, are not being targeted and being used as a scapegoat or the poster child for a smear campaign. So educating the American folks and the trolls on my social media telling me to go back to my country. So I'm just doing what I got to do as a Black individual living in America.
As an immigrant contributing to our community and making our state better.
Because I'm clocking into a real job, mind you. It's a Black job and I'm clocking into it. So I'm out here contributing to the economy, by the way.
Clock it.
I'm not stealing anything, y'all. I'm actually working.
Yeah, you guys can follow me at personal at lauren.ashley. You can also follow me on TikTok. And make sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe to the Lions Den podcast. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Music, not Apple Music, Jesus, podcast.
Mix.
Ooh, okay. And our TikTok, which is at the Lions Den podcast as well. Might be back for another recap. I don't know. That Secret Lives of the Mormon Wives is looking pretty juicy. So we may have to come back and do another recap on that. But yeah, if you have any suggestions on any TV recaps you want me to do, please let me know. I'm happy to do it.
Tia's new reality show. You might have to bring me back for that for a live watch. I'm just saying.
Oh. Y'all heard it. We may have to come back and do that one because that's going to be very interesting to see, to say the least. And new episodes will be coming soon, so stay tuned to that. Well, that is all. Anything else? Okay. Well, thank you guys again for watching. Thank you guys for joining me, ladies, beautiful ladies. I always love it when you guys come. Thank y'all, and y'all have a good night. See you next time.
Bye.